morning, everyone. I'm wearing a black shirt, but it is a black shirt with print on it. And it says human laws are absolute trash. Happy Vulnerable AF Friday. We are on the precipice of potentially a 3-day weekend. If you are so fortunate to have one of the more, what do they call it? There's a term and I can't think of it. A more status quo, I guess, type job, career, position. Nevertheless, here we are today. I'm Nicole Michelle. I went back and forth on if I was going to make a video today. I have an update about Woo Woo Wednesday. I haven't given it up, even though I haven't shown up for a few of them. But you know, I know people think like doing this kind of thing is like very simple, and that's how I'm trying to keep it. Like, I'm trying to keep it just simple. I show up, I say some things, I post it, the end. Do you know what I mean? But for like the Woo Woo Wednesday, I don't have enough. It's not like Vulnerable AF Friday where I just show up and I speak about my journey and maybe what I think about things that are happening in the world or whatever, right? Where I'm just being open and authentic and stuff like that. I think with Woo Woo Wednesday, I definitely want to try to, I guess you could say, anchor in the reality that the mundane is woo, right? Like that woo woo happens every day all around you, and I really want to dive more into that. And I think it is actually a segment I will have to do some research on, because I am not well versed in the woo. I'm kind of, you know, learning as I go. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert in anything. I'm not an expert in my opinion. Well, I mean, I guess I am an expert in my opinion, but I'm not an expert in like therapy or mental health or anything like that. But you know, Vulnerable AF Friday is just me showing up as me, speaking my mind on things. Whereas talking about things that I would talk about on Woo Woo Wednesday really deserve the extra legwork. And I think if I don't take the time to do the extra legwork, it's really kind of a disservice to the idea. And I've just been really busy lately, taking care of myself and my mental health and my physical health and working and, you know, spending time with family. So I don't even know. I don't think I did do a Vulnerable AF Friday last Friday. I can't even remember. But I went back and forth on if I was going to get on today. I don't really feel that great. I'm kind of tired. And I was kind of like, meh. But I feel like I could curl up in bed and go to sleep right now. And then, of course, the topic that was coming up for me to discuss, everybody's going to have an opinion and everybody's going to have something to say. And I've been going back and forth since I, you know, got in the car about, am I going to really talk about this? Am I really going to try to address this? And how to do it in a meaningful way. Do you know what I mean? Because it's real easy to be a part of a conversation where everybody's pointing fingers. But I think it's more important to be a part of the conversation in a way that's more meaningful. Do you know what I mean? Like when something bad happens, everybody's quick to have an opinion and knee-jerk reactions, and it's warranted, don't get me wrong, but in my experience, any decision that I've ever made in haste, out of anger, frustration, whatever, has never really, okay, I was like, something is on fire over here, but there's a lady like burning some leaves or something, I guess, has never really worked out very well to my benefit. It's typically been a detriment. I don't even know the full story of the events that took place, I guess, yesterday with the school. I think it was like a church school. I don't know. I'm doing a lot of speculation. I just feel like at this point, I don't need the details to know, you know what I mean? Wash, rinse, repeat, right? This, ever so often, a situation like this happens where innocent lives are lost, families are, you know, changed forever, right? And I have empathy and sympathy for that situation. Like, I'm not out here saying that other people's lives don't matter, because I know my feelings and my thoughts on this are probably going to trigger some people. It's probably going to rub some people the wrong way. But I think that I'm looking at it from a more truth perspective and not an emotional perspective. I don't like being led by my emotions. I don't like being, you know what I mean? Like anything where somebody's trying to get me to make a decision out of fear, I don't like that. Anything where somebody's trying to get me to make a decision out of anger, I don't like that. Because my judgment is clouded. And I'm not going to say that this was like staged, right? Even though I would not deny that there has potentially been staged events to sort of control the populace and steer the populace into the direction of certain agendas, right? Stay in your lane. Especially going the opposite direction. Stay out of mine. So, you know, what sparked me even being open to talking about it, as a person who has complex PTSD, as a person who has struggled with a lot of negative emotions, as a person, y'all just don't care out here, as a person who has contemplated suicide, self-harmed, I know these words are going to be triggering to YouTube, as a person who has considered unaliving, as a person who has injured themselves, as a person who has not wanted to be in this ethereal realm, right? Ethereal? I might be saying it, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? I feel like I have... I'm not saying like I have the right or authority. It's not, I don't want it to sound like that. But I feel that I have, and I'm not like alone. Like, there's a lot of people like me. There's a lot of people like the people who are causing these tragedies to happen. You know what I mean? But I feel like as somebody who has been through a lot of mental illness, who comes from clearly lineages on both sides with there's some kind of mental illness, like my grandfather on my dad's side unalived himself, and you know, like there's been like alcoholics on both sides, like it's, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I have a little wiggle room here to just kind of open up and share a little vulnerably, I guess, right? Even though I know, like, number one, let me say this, okay? When it comes to situations like this, it should always be the people that are hurt that get to speak the most, in my opinion. They should be the loudest voice in the room. Whoever's hurt typically should be the loudest voice in the room. But just because you want to be the loudest voice, or you deserve to be the loudest voice, doesn't mean that your voice is the correct answer all the time either. And what kind of triggered me to talk about this, trigger, inspire, whatever, I got on Facebook this morning, and I'm just scrolling, you know, the morning scroll, the doom scroll before we have to get up and put on our big boy pants and big girl pants and go to work and be a productive member of society. I'm scrolling and I see this guy who I have a lot of respect for. I don't really follow him closely. I don't really know him. But like, I always admire people who take their struggle and they try to turn it into something greater. Do you know what I mean? And it's this guy, and he was like, I'm so tired of living in a country where people prioritize, I think he said they prioritize pew-pew over children's lives. I think was what it was said. And of course, I felt a certain way about it, because I don't know how much we have to have the argument that you don't have to have that type of device, tool, or weapon to do damage, to do harm, to, you know what I mean? What I'm driving right now, like anything, if you're creative enough, can be used as an instrument of harm. Period. So I don't think, of course, the answer is like, oh, everybody turn in your self-defense items. I'm trying to kind of, you know what I mean, steer around the trigger buzzwords, but I think you know what I'm getting at, okay? And the real, so I had a response, because of course I had a response. And my response was that I was so tired of living in a country where we idolize mental struggles, right? I don't remember my exact word, but it's something like that. I'm tired of living in a country where we idolize, you know, mental health issues. We idolize it. And that's evident in the fact of the mental disorder that this person, the perpetrator, was going through. Okay? And I try to stay away from this subject because I don't like to be divisive. Like, that is not my goal. And I feel like when I talk about that, it's just naturally divisive. Because instantly I get labeled as phobic of some kind. You know what I mean? And I'm the only phobic I am is of brainless zombie people just doing what they're told, just following whatever and not thinking for themselves. That's about the only thing I'm phobic about, okay? So let me just put that out there and clarify that. And here's the thing, right? Like, life can be so painful that we do think there's no other way out. And like I said, as a person who I used to hurt myself, I used to, you know, when I still lived at home with my abusive parent, I used to have thoughts like I could walk out, people that know me and know where I grew up, I could walk out to 518, just like one of the main roads it's a small city then, but it's grown now. But I'm like, I could just walk out there, 18-wheelers run up and down it all day. I could just walk out there and step out in front of one last second and they wouldn't be able to stop. You know? I would have thoughts when I was home alone. I could just go downstairs and I could get a knife. There's nobody here to stop me. You know? But I'm one of the fortunate ones who's in a position where those thoughts don't take over. And even once I got past wanting to harm myself and unalive myself, not even all that long ago, right? Like, I would say within the past 5 years or so, I still found myself just not wanting to exist. Because everything that I had been through, and the fact that I'm sensitive on top of it, okay? I'm naturally sensitive. I really, really struggled. I really, really struggled with my mental health. And it's still a struggle at times. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not out here being like, oh, you know, you do some plant medicine and life is all sunshine and rainbows. No, it's work every fucking day. It's choosing me every fucking day. It's showing up every fucking day. Saying, this will not conquer me. I will conquer it till my last fucking breath. It will not have control over me any fucking more. And that's why I do these videos, because I want people to choose the healing path. Not the destructive path. I want people to choose the healing path. And it can happen, and it can be done, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter your fight. You know what I mean? They can all be overcome, but it's if you want it. And I think for a lot of people, it becomes so painful that they don't see any other way out. And I can say that as somebody that's been there, who's had those thoughts, like, there's no other way out. And like I said, I'm fortunate because I am fucking petty mayonnaise. I will spite fuck you as long as I have air in my lungs. Like, that is part of my genetic makeup. And while sometimes I do not like where that comes from genetically, I am grateful because that's my lifeline. At the end of the day, that has been my lifeline. Like, the idea of me unaliving myself and feeling like the person that pushed me to that would win, that's what kept me from doing it. My my pettiness and my spite and not letting them win and not letting them, like, not today, I don't care. I will struggle through it. Not today. You know what I mean? And, you know, even when you get out of a situation like that, when you finally get free, you're not free. And it lingers and it travels with you. And there's some people in this world that seem to believe, think, feel, act, appear as if they could just choose to move on and not let those things interfere in their lives. And in the past, I thought I was one of those people. I thought I was one of those people where I could just pretend like none of this shit happened to me, where I could, like, distance it mentally, like lock it away in a box in the back of my mind. But I would struggle with relationships, and I would struggle with like personal aspects of my life, right? I would struggle at work sometimes. I would feel very scattered and disorganized and frustrated that was even the thing, and that I couldn't figure out how to get over it, and whatever. And it's only been through learning to love myself. Okay? It's only been through learning to love myself and give grace to my humanity that I have been able to turn the page on that self-harm, not wanting to exist mindset. And I'm not going to say there aren't some times where I'm just like, I'm really fucking over this ride. Do you know what I mean? But then I reflect on how far I've come and the realities that I've had and the tools that I've developed. And I'm just like, it's for a reason. Like, that's the thing. I want people to understand, if you're here, it's for a reason. You have some gift to offer humanity. And I know it's hard sometimes to know what that gift is when we have so many different people and voices trying to tell us who the fuck we are instead of letting us be who we are. And something, again, we're gonna wade into we're gonna wade into unpopular opinion territory here, okay? And we're gonna talk about that which shall not be named. Otherwise, you'd be called phobic, okay? But there are more and more people that are trans coming out. And when I say coming out, I don't mean like they're coming out as trans. I'm saying they've gone through the process and they're coming out and they're saying how damaging it's been to them, how it didn't really help. Like, I've seen so many stories about people that have changed back and forth or done whatever, or done the change that they thought would make, that's what I'm saying. Like, I left the situation, right? I left the situation that was harming me, and I thought, okay, life's gonna be better now, and guess what? It fucking wasn't. It fucking wasn't. And it took a lot of work. It took a lot of suffering. And I wish the suffering could be spared in this world, but that's just not the way this world works. There is unfortunately always going to be suffering. There is unfortunately always going to be people that leave before their time. There's unfortunately always going to be people that are left in the wake of the void of that person. And I'm not saying that to just kind of like sweep it under the rug, because y'all know I ain't about sweeping shit under the rug, okay? But I'm just saying, like, that is a part of living. Pain is unfortunately a part of living. That doesn't make it right, and that doesn't, like me accepting the pain as a part of living doesn't make it okay that I was touched when I was little. It doesn't make it okay that I was hit and that I was mistreated and that I was mentally abused and physically abused. It doesn't make it okay, but I understand that it'll always be a part of existence. And all I can do is try to limit my exposure to it, hopefully. But you don't really even get a say. Do you know what I mean? Some crazy person right now that's inebriated could come flying into my lane or flip their, like, anything could fucking happen. Anything could happen. That's why it's important that you are present in your day-to-day life. And this is something that's very hard for people, I think, with traumatic whatevers, right? If you have PTSD, if you have anxiety, if you have depression, I think it's very hard for people to be present. And the thing is, we're so uncomfortable in our existence that it's almost painful to be present. We're so unhappy with our life that it's almost painful to be present. Because we're always either in the future or in the past, right? And then what do they say? If you're living in the past, it's depression. And if you're living in the future, it's anxiety. And that's why the center neutral ground is here. So even though we think this is painful to be here, and I try to put myself back into like when it was the worst for me, like mentally I'm trying to put myself back there because I've come so far from that place. You know, that do I still struggle with presence? Yes. I'm not saying that I'm all of a sudden zen as fuck, like no. But like it's very difficult for a person who is hyper vigilant, who's constantly feeling attacked, even when nothing's actually happening, always feeling like you have to have your guard up, always feeling like someone's out to fucking get you, always feeling like you can't do anything right. It's very hard to be present with all that. Do you know what I mean? And it's much easier to reflect on, well, if I'd have done this differently, and if this would have happened differently, and whatever, the things we cannot control, before us and after us, right? The things we cannot control, the things that happen in our past, the things that happen in the future, we cannot control. We can have a plan for the future. That doesn't mean the future is going to go according to plan. You know, I can have a plan for today. That doesn't mean that today is going to go according to plan. You know, and I think, so here's the things I think that really we need to be instilling in people, right? Adaptability. And this is something with my profession I've really had to embrace. And it's something that for someone like me who's very rigid, and because I've been hyper vigilant and all that stuff my whole life, I need that structure. I need that assurance of what's going to happen next, and then what, and kids are the same way. Oh my God, kids are the same way. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And then what? And I'm like, bro, look, just chill out, okay? Go with the flow. You know what I mean? Like that should be evident, in my opinion, of how much these things get passed down that we don't heal. You know, the things that we can't face, that we can't heal, we don't save our children from. We don't protect our children from. Realistically, I know we grow up and we think, I'll never let that happen to my kid. And I don't have children, but I don't have children, but I do have children. Okay, let's just put it like that. I don't have any of my own, okay, but I have children that I care about, okay? And I feel like that's kind of where it starts, right? Like regulating from a young age, which is very difficult to do, because even when you're giving them the wisdom, they think they know everything, right? I know a 6-year-old who I swear she thinks she's like 22 and she thinks she knows everything, and she's very sassy, and I try to tell her, you know what I mean? Like every kid that I've ever met, I try to be like, look, bro, change is the only constant, okay? You're creating this vision of the future. Like I knew this one kid, and they're like, oh, when I grow up, and this was like years ago, right? When I grow up, I'm going to be a YouTuber, you know? And I had to tell him, I'm like, look, bro, that's a great plan, but I just want you to know things change, and change is the only constant. And in the future, YouTube may not be what it is today. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to kind of think about where you're hitching your star, like where you're hitching your star to, like which, you know, like, okay, you want to be a YouTuber, but for what? Because if you have that, the niche, as they call it, right? You can show up anywhere if you know your niche, allegedly, supposedly. And I knew you were going to cut me off. Look, bro, Nissan drivers are the literal worst out here. Literal worst. Like, if you're out here, you see a Nissan driver, you're just like, you don't even want to park next to them. Fucking nothing. So, you know, it really starts young. All this stuff really starts young. And it's unfortunate that so many people are traumatized by someone else's actions. But I don't think the answer is let's just disarm everybody, because even if you do, it's not going to stop people. Why don't you go, well, oh, if only somebody would have taken away all of Timothy McVeigh's pew-pews. If only somebody would have taken away all of his things that shot bullets. Right? If only the guy that drove through the parade in, what was that? Michigan? Something like that. There was like some parade and a bunch of kids got hit. I think like a couple of them died. It's years ago now. I can't even remember. I think it was in Michigan. It was like a small little town. And if only we had taken away his bullets, y'all. If only. But that's not the problem. People who hurt to the point where they're willing to, and see, that's the thing, like, fortunately for me, I never had the urge to harm other people. And I think because I was so harmed, I never wanted to harm. You know what I mean? And there's some people that when they're hurt, they don't care. They just want to watch the world burn. And sometimes there is no saving people from them. Sometimes there is no saving people from themselves. It's an unfortunate part of this world. And probably has been since the dawn of time. Those who wish destruction upon others are going to get their destruction upon others. If that is what they have set their mind to, and that is what they have determined, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that someone couldn't come into this person's life and really, like, hear them. And I'm not saying, like, going along with a delusion or a mental illness, in my opinion, is not a solution. And I think a lot of people are afraid to give real love. I think a lot of people think that giving love is just like, okay, honey, whatever you want, da 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 da. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people think that. And I think a lot of people think it's cruel to deny somebody what they believe is their truth. And I think that we can love people and be honest with them. I think that we can love people and express concern for them. And I think that's not happening enough, I think, is the issue. I think, and again, like, it's a very slippery slope, because then you'll have people that are arguing, well, this kid is going to harm themselves and or others because they're being denied who they feel they are. So that's what I'm saying. It's a slippery slope, right? Like, there is no one size fits all answer to life. And that's the problem. Everybody's running around here like a chicken with their heads cut off right now, thinking that we need a one size fits all solution to a bigger problem, a systemic problem that is going to take time and healing to help. You know what I mean? And I don't think that a lot of things that are happening nowadays are really what's best for a kid. Like, when we were little, we weren't out here thinking about how to try to hurt other people. Even when we ourselves were being hurt, right? We're out playing in ditches, riding our bikes, playing football, street baseball. Like, that's the life I had. And I know a lot of people feel like their kids can't have that life because we live in a dangerous world and whatever, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but I think kids need to get back to being outside more. People need to touch grass more. People need to be in nature more. All this tech, as great as it is, has a time and place. And I'm just as guilty. I'm not out here trying to be like, oh, I put my phone away and I put it in a hyperbaric chamber and I fucking, 5 hours a day I put it away, and I'd know it's not realistic or true. But it's just, I think about the types of people that I work for, and they are workaholics typically, right? And even when they're home, they're working. They're on their phone, they're answering emails, or taking calls, whatever. And we think that's the most important thing until something tragic happens. And then what? You're full of the regret of all the time you didn't take to just enjoy life, to enjoy people, to enjoy having time with the people that you care about. And I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. I just have my own thoughts. I think mental health is more the problem. And I think that mental health has become very glamorized and idolized. And I think healing needs to be, and not like fake ass healing where we walk around and we pretend like we're fine, but like really feeling seen and heard in the things that hurt us. And it's not always even easy to talk about the things that hurt us, and it's not always easy to feel seen or heard about them. You know what I mean? But one thing I was gonna say is when I was talking about I've seen a lot of people that have identified as transgender, and they've gone through the process of changing their gender. Sorry, I don't know where ginger came from. Changing their gender, and I'm hearing lately a lot of them coming out and having a very common denominator, unfortunately. And it's one that I can relate to, and I can see where it might create this split in who we are. I'm speculating, okay? This is heavy speculation. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a scientist, I'm not whatever. I'm just a real ass person trying to be a real ass person, okay? But a lot of them are coming out now saying that they were sexually abused in some way when they were younger. And as someone who that's happened to, in my previous Vulnerable AF Fridays that I used to do on Facebook, I would discuss this topic a lot, about how even though I'm a girl and I'm a woman, I'm a female, whatever, I do have a lot of like masculine energy feeling in myself, you know what I mean? And I know that comes from feeling unprotected by the men in my life and feeling not safe. And so my feminine energy has been dampened. You know, I didn't grow up girly. I grew up a tomboy, which I have no issue with. I loved the parts of my childhood where I got to be a child. I love the parts of my childhood where I got to go out and play with my friends and be explorative and, you know, play in the ditch and catch, you know, tadpoles and minnows and, you know what I mean? Like hang out with my older brother and do all those kind of things. And I mean, I played with girls too. I had Barbies, whatever. But even to this day, I still struggle with what I view, and this is a woo-woo thing, which that I view with my the unbalance between my masculine and feminine energy. I'm in my masculine a lot, which is a survival. It's survival. It's my body, my mind, everything trying to keep me alive, trying to do what is necessary. And even though I'm grateful to some degree for that, I have some resentment because I feel like I don't get to be soft. And at this point, I've been this way so long, sometimes I don't know if I'll ever be soft. Sometimes I don't know if I'll ever get to experience true femininity, the feminine energy. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, I have no desire to be something or someone I'm not. I don't feel like I've been put in the wrong body, nothing like that. But I know that there's probably truth to some people who think they're in the wrong body because something tragic happened to them. And I wouldn't be surprised if I dug into it a little more and I found out there was some kind of like mental schism that occurs when trauma like that happens. You know what I mean? And that's something that's very rampant, which I wish that people would view the abuse of children as strongly as they view banning pew-pews. Because if we would address the abuse of children, we wouldn't have kids out here killing kids. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So, I feel for those who have been affected by the recent events all the way around. And I hope, even though I know it's not going to happen, I hope that this is not used for more division. I hope it's not used to further strip us of our rights. It's not the answer. Making decisions out of fear, making decisions out of anger, it's not the answer. Valid. It's valid, but it's not the answer. So, If you can't stand nobody fuck else today, please stand yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Be loving. Be understanding. Let yourself off the hook. No one's perfect. Take the time you need to show yourself some love. I feel like right now, especially, social media is going to feel a little toxic. Take a break when you need to. Walk away. We don't have to be so invested. And again, we don't have to do the whole virtue signaling. We don't have to virtue signal. We can choose to be a part of the solution without being on here virtue signaling. You know I have a friend of mine who just decided to become a CASA advocate, and they're going through training right now. That's a solution. That's a solution to the problem. And we could do that. We could volunteer our time. We could volunteer our energy. We could volunteer our knowledge. But what do we do instead? We get on here, point fingers, have all these huge debates, wasted energy. Reminds me of a poem that I wrote. Maybe I'll get on later and share it. I don't think I could recite it fully, but it's basically, there's a line in it where it's like, we fight till we are like, we basically fight till we're on our knees and never seeing that we all matter. You know what I mean? It's just, we waste our breath, we waste our potential, we waste the vital life energy that we have. For what? To be a keyboard warrior? For what? To feel like we're standing up for somebody that doesn't have a voice? No, there are other ways. There are better ways. You just have to be willing to actually be selfless and not virtue signal. So take care, everybody. Life is heavy sometimes. Find your support. Don't find your identity on these on these apps and shit, and think that you have to go out there in your mind and virtually screamed, you know, from the top of the mountain about pew control or even mental health, even though I know mental health is the key driver. Be a part of the solution. Have a meaningful conversation. Love yourself.